Joining us now, welcome back, Steve Miran, Council of Economic Advisors Chair and Federal Reserve nominee for the Board of Governors. Steve, welcome back to the show. I don't know, you have any comments on my stock market riff? Come on, you know about stock market. Maybe I left something out. You tell me. Why are stocks rallying so much?
Great to see you, Larry. Thanks for having me back. I mean, look, I think financial markets see the same thing that you do, which is that President Trump is a historically pro-business, pro-business president. I mean, think about the incentives that you've got in the economy for business to boom. You've got the full expensing and incentives in the One Big Beautiful Bill that's going to make capex and investments soar. You've got the no taxes on tips, on overtime, and Social Security. You've got deregulatory tailwinds as we're cutting red tape left and right so that businesses can engage in expanding their businesses when they want to. And we've got energy abundance too. And then also we've got the thing you mentioned before, which is these trade deals, right? We are opening foreign markets to U.S. goods. We are securing commitments to invest in the American economy. $500 billion here, $600 billion there. Sooner or later, you're talking about real money there.
I think stocks love the whole thing. You know, I was talking to Scott Bessent last night. We'll play some tape later in the show, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. I think the heart and soul of President Trump's trade policy and his beliefs is his great desire to build new American factories. Factories. You know, it's like a word we don't even hardly use anymore in our lexicon, for heaven's sake. It's like something out of the 1950s. I remember when we had factories when I grew up. Build new factories, more people go to work. More people go to work, chances are their wages and take-home pay is going to go up. I think the stock market loves is you can write the whole expense off in 5 years, along with the R&D and the business equipment, and it'll make America strong in key areas, Steve Miran. You know, semiconductors, for example, or pharmaceuticals, or autos, or steel, and so forth, defense technologies, you name it. Factories, I think that's the most underrated part of his whole plan.
Look, I think you're absolutely right about that. I couldn't agree more, and it's important not just for economic reasons, because you get significant improvements in productivity, in R&D and technological progress when you make things here as opposed to making them elsewhere. But you also get key national security benefits, right? It's important economically, but we also don't want to be reliant upon strategic adversaries like China for key parts to our national security, to our defense. We don't want to be in a situation in which we can't make bullets or jets or rockets or satellites because someone we don't like says, no, we don't like how you voted at the UN that time, or whatever it is, right? We want to make sure that we have the strategic autonomy to shore up our national security, and that's reliant on factories, like you say. So it's an economic win and a security win at the same time.
Yeah, I just love that whole thought process. I came up with it. I know it's not original, but I'm just trying to think. You want to really understand what Mr. Trump is doing on trade? Factories, okay? I really think that's a key point. Let me go on. Let me branch out a little further. I'll get to the Fed and monetary policy in a minute. But E.J. Antoni, a very smart guy, he's going to take over the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The BLS needs help. It needs new methodology. It needs new everything, if you ask me. Now they're attacking him because the Wall Street Journal here, the partisan economist Trump wants to oversee the nation's data. Well, everybody's partisan. Presidents appoint people, and Democrat or Republican. What do you think about E.J. Antoni? I know the guy. We have him on the show a whole lot. He's a very smart guy. He's been a BLS critic, and rightly so. What's wrong with E.J. Antoni, Steve Miran?
Look, I don't know him personally yet. I'm looking forward to getting to know him, but I think that it seems like he's a very sharp guy. And on top of that, I think you've got to give the president a lot of credit for picking one of the most talented economic policy teams in history. I mean, when you look at the wins of this team, when you look at the wins of Secretaries Bessent and Lutnick, Ambassador Greer, NEC Director Kevin Hassett, Peter Navarro, when you think about these guys, they have accomplished so much in only 6 months. Restructuring the global trading system, opening foreign markets to American goods, securing tariffs without retaliation, securing investments into the United States economy. I think there should be no question at all that the president knows how to pick talent, both in business, in the private sector, and in government.
Now, Steve Miran, when you get to the Fed, whenever, I hope you get there for the September meeting. We'll see how that works. When you get to the Fed, will you promise me that you will speak your piece, just like you did here on this show in the first 6.5 minutes of this interview? I don't want you to go to the Fed and disappear or be an academic. I want you to speak your piece about taxes and about trade and about energy and whole lots of things, because you're very good at speaking your piece. So I want you to promise me and all our viewers that you are going to say Steve Miran on the Fed.
Thanks, Larry. I mean, look, as you know, I have a nomination coming before the Senate for the Fed, so I'm limited in what I can say about the Fed itself. But as far as speaking my mind openly and honestly, that is all I've ever done, and that is all I will ever do. I have no intention of doing anything but that. I've always said what I think, regardless of how out of consensus or contrarian it is, and I'm going to continue to do that.
I want you to. I want to, you give a lot of speeches out there and, talk about good policy versus bad policy. So Scott Bessent told us last night he expects 50 basis points in September as a jumbo cut and overall about 150 basis points easing cycle. What do you think?
Well, like I said a moment ago, I'm limited in what I can say about the Fed and interest rates because of the confirmation process with the Senate. However, I can tell you that I think inflation is pretty well behaved. It's been running at CPI has been running at a 1.9% annualized rate since the president took office, right? That's stable, well-behaved, normal price inflation, right? And so if inflation seems under control, I think that's a good sign for the future of the economy. And, eventually policymakers will take note of that. But in terms of what actually I think about interest rates and Fed policy in the short term, I just can't comment directly on it.
All right, real quick lightning round. I know you have to go.
Yeah.
The tariff inflation has not materialized.
Oh, it absolutely hasn't materialized. People have been disappointed over and over and over again. We've been doing tariffs for over 6 months now, from the very first day of this administration, with China tariffs, Canada and Mexico fentanyl tariffs. Those have been in process, and there's still no evidence whatsoever of tariff-induced inflation in any economically meaningful sense.
Other one. Why don't we use market-based inflation indicators? You have the tips market, you have the treasury market, the break-evens based on CPI compensation. You take a look at that, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Basically, they're telling you inflation is just over 2%. Now, I know we're going to have BLS surveys and this and that, but why can't we just use, forward-looking price indicators from the marketplace? Wouldn't that be just as good? Do you yourself use forward-looking market price indicators?
I do. I think they should be a critical input into any process that's trying to think about where inflation is going into the future. The market has a lot of information embedded into it, and as you point out, the medium-term inflation expectations that are embedded into the various markets that price those things are, not crazy, right? They're pretty tame. So when I look at those markets, I don't see any concern about inflation over the medium run. Whatsoever expressed in the financial markets, and I think they're right about that.
All right. I'm going to let you go. I know you can't talk specifically about the Fed. I want to wish you all the luck of the world, and we have it on tape now. You are going to say the same thing. You're not going to pull back as a new Federal Reserve governor. We're counting on you, Steve Miran.
I will speak my mind. Thanks for having me.
Okay, buddy. Talk soon.